Hello and welcome to the Sands of Time review channel. It is your host Sammy Thunder here today. Today I'm here with a review of a recent acquisition of mine, being this Grand Seiko SBGJ235. It's a special purchase for myself. I got it towards the end of the year. I wanted to end the year with a little bit of a bang, so I actually purchased this SBGJ235. Yes, it is a Grand Seiko, and yes, it is another GMT. And a quick wristwatch check. Right now I'm wearing this SBGM221, an automatic GMT, which I really like. Probably one of my favorite watches in the collection, and now I've added another automatic GMT, but this one's a little bit more special and a bit more unique. So let's get right into it. And just wanted to thank everyone for, watching my videos, subscribing, anyone that puts in a bit of input here and there. I really appreciate. So thanks for watching and contributing. Now, this watch here, just to get a little bit of the dimensions, just the specifications out of the way, it is a 44GS case watch. So it is a heritage watch, heritage design, and as you can see from the dial itself, it features a high beat movement, and it is a traveler's GMT watch, meaning that you can independently set the hour hand, jumping by 1 hour without affecting the rest, the minute hand. Now, it's manufactured in the Shizukuishi watch studio, and it's famously known as the Mount Iwate, but this one in particular, with the blue dial, it's meant to evoke the feeling of, witnessing Mount Iwate under moonlight. So that's what you see with the dial. It has this ridge-like pattern, which is meant to reflect, the ridges of Mount Iwate. The watch itself features a 40mm diameter, a lug-to-lug of a very compact 46.2mm. It features a 19mm lug width, and it features case thickness of 14mm. So I believe this is the thickest variation of the 44GS case. Now, there are multiple iterations of the 44GS case throughout history, and recently we have just seen the new 9SA5 and 9RA2, I believe, calibers, which are in these 44GS cases, which are much thinner, and they're a spring drive. The standard spring drive movement one is a bit thinner as well. The quartz versions, the SBGP, are thinner as well. But let me tell you, the thickness, for me personally, it is not a deal breaker, and I'll explain to you soon enough, and it's to do with the Grand Seiko Grammar of Design. As I said before, this is a high beat movement, so it is a special watch. I often like to call these high beat movement Grand Seikos, as cringe as it sounds, I like to call them the Nissan GTR, of the watches, especially, with such a high-tech movement inside, a true and tested movement. It's been here for a while from Grand Seiko brand, one of the best manufacturers of high-beat movement. I believe Zenith also is up there with GS, and it's special because you'll probably notice that it has a much smoother tick rate. So it's actually ticking. So the second hand is actually ticking 10 times a second, also known on the dial as 36,000 beats an hour. It's a very smooth, very accurate watch. Has a precision rating of +5 to -3 seconds a day. And from my observation of owning this watch, I do get around +3 to +4 seconds a day. And I'm not really paying much attention to accuracy, but it's just what I've observed. The reason why this movement is special is because it features the use of MEMS technology, which is something, it's a technique that you use to produce very complex microelectronics, and they use the MEMS technology in their cleanroom laboratories to produce or manufacture the hairsprings and mainsprings, and that allows it to raise the overall precision of the watch. They're able to reduce some weight, improve the durability, and also provide torque needed to move the second hand with the high beat and to have that 55 hours of power reserve. So it is quite a special movement. So Grand Seiko, even though they're famously known for the spring drive movement, I think Grand Seiko shines in quartz technology, high beat technology, and the innovation, which is spring drive movements. For me personally, why is it that I have two automatic Grand Seikos? Why not a spring drive? I have owned a spring drive before. I've owned the SBGJ235, which is a fabulous watch. It's underrated. It's not the typical choice when it comes to Grand Seiko because it doesn't feature the exotic dials. But that one featured a nice electric blue dial. But at that moment of time, I was going through some collecting turmoil, and I really wanted to get back the SBGM 221. So I eventually had to move the SBGA 375. But that's another story. The 44GS case is one of my favorite cases from the brand. I do like the 62GS case, and even the standard GS cases are nice, but the 44GS case is very complex. It's very angular, and it features the Grand Seiko grammar of design. And it's actually based on 3 principles. And look, I'm going to read straight out of the textbook. So their first principle is that the design should always have like a flat surface and 2-dimensional curves. Their second principle is that the flat surface of the case, dial, and hands should be as wide as possible. Their third principle is, every surface should be distortion free, and have a mirror finish to them. And this is just putting it plain and simple. It evokes a play in light and shadow, which is a prominent motif in Japanese culture. And that's what you kind of see here with Grand Seiko. It plays extremely well with the condition the watch is in. In sunlight, it is a completely different watch to what it would look like in the dark, or just in a normal environment. Or let's say you're in an office environment, it's going to have a different, maybe a shade on the dial. And the 44GS case really is the embodiment of grammar of design, and that's why I think it is a legendary watch. Some of the things they mention, the multifaceting of the indices, and if you notice, the 12 o'clock is distinct. It's providing the information that this is the 12 o'clock index. The crown itself being semi-recessed, so part of the crown is actually within the case. Helps the overall durability of the watch, I guess. If you're accidentally knocking it around, you won't really do significant damage to the crown if you manage to knock that part. You look at the wide mirror finish of this lugs. It's distortion free, it's mirror finished, it's excellent. And it's hard to show this, but it really does. It will, if I put this on a flat surface, on let's say a notebook, it will actually reflect accurately, the writing. So it really is a spectacular thing to notice. The flat dial, allows overall legibility. It's very basic watchmaking principles. And one thing about Grand Seikos, and when I mentioned, the 14 mil thickness, so if you look at the side profile of this watch, this is 14 mils in thickness, but it doesn't actually feel that, because if you look through the sides, what Grand Seiko tend to employ in their technique is, see how from the bezel to the actual flank of the case, you'll notice that there's an inward transition. And again, you go from the flank to the bottom of the case, there's an inward slanting transition there as well. This kind of technique just reduces the overall, how do I say it, the feeling of it being thick. It's not actually, it doesn't feel thick because of these techniques. So it's like an illusion. It's like an optical illusion, but it's not really. And I really like the 44GS case. It gives this kind of feeling of a cupcake, especially with the bezel. And you can look at it, just looking at the case, there are multiple facets along it. So you're looking at the flat sapphire crystal. Actually, it is a domed sapphire crystal, very slightly domed, and you notice there are multiple facets just on the plane of the bezel, which is nice. And then you have that cupcake structure, and then you have that wide mirror flank, and it transitions with this nice banana-like brushed surface. It's broken, so that's the breaking of the mid case, and then again you have a bottom Zaratsu polished flank. So as tiresome as it is, yes, Grand Seikos employ the Zaratsu polishing technique, and that's where you get that distortion free finish on the watch, and it takes quite a bit of skill, hand precision, using the Zalax machine to kind of produce this finishing. And one of my favorite things about this watch is the dial. The dial really is the star of the show, and you're looking at the handset. It is a brushed handset, and I'll try and zoom into this one. You're looking at the hands, the minute and hour hand. You have this very nicely hand finished, so hand brushed handset, and then it's beveled with very high polish, which is just exquisite. And you can just see the light play even in this video I'm taking, and I'm using a Google Pixel 6a. It's not a flagship phone, but it is a very nice camera on a phone, and it's able to pick up, just this light play, shadow play, and this is what Grand Seiko intended with this grammar of design. You would also notice the indices. The top part of those indices have the vertical lines, vertical ridge patterns on them. And look, my phone can't capture this. It doesn't have a telephoto lens, or else I would probably be able to zoom further in, but it's just so exquisite right now. And you look at the dial, the exquisite blue dial. It's a vivid blue, and it has this, even though they say this is based on Mount Iwate, what this actually evokes to me is some kind of fur skin, animal skin, which is beautiful. This pattern, it's like an iris, those animal eyes, and you get the macro shots of them. That's what it evokes, the feeling it evokes. And the GMT hand is some kind of, it appears powdered, like a powdered salmon color, which provides a very stark contrast to the blue dial. And you look at the GMT text, it's a very similar color. I wouldn't say it's the same, but it's very similar. I really just appreciate the watch. There's a lot of artisanal, there's a lot of craftsmanship that's gone into the watch, and I'm very, very glad I own it. I think it has easily become, I am in the honeymoon phase at least, but I don't see myself selling this watch. The high beat movement is exquisite to look at, and when I look at my normal watches, which beat around 6 times a second, so 21,600 beats per hour, or 8 ticks a second with the standard 28,800 beats per hour, they actually seem to stutter now that I see them. So right now this is the 221, and I can actually notice a very big difference when you actually wear a high bit movement for a while. So exquisite watch. Turning the watch around, it features the 9S65 86 movement, which is the high beat GMT. And one of the, I'd say, negative things about this watch is the fact that they have embossed this sticker, which states, it's a Grand Seiko Boutique limited edition, so it's limited to the boutique only. It would have been great to not see that one. I know there is a reference called SBGJ235, which is a Japan-only version of this watch, and it actually doesn't feature that GS Boutique Limited Edition only sticker. So maybe the next time I send this watch for service, if allowed, I would actually ask them to just replace that for me, with the case back. I know there are people that try to remove it themselves. To be honest, I don't really care. I'm happy if I just get another case back. But that is a very basic kind of rundown of this watch. In terms of the wearability on wrist, I will try and give a wrist shot now. So the watch wears extremely comfortably on the wrist. So I'll just quickly wear this. And what you'll notice is this watch actually only comes on the bracelet, and I've actually put it on a special strap because I feel personally that the 44GS case is much more exaggerated on a strap. It's much more pronounced. The lugs are much more pronounced on the strap compared to the bracelet, and that comes to the next gripe of this watch would just be the bracelet. And this is very typical of fare and stated by many people, is that the bracelet is a high quality bracelet, no doubt, very well finished. It also features the Zaratsu polishing on the mid links. But what I dislike about the watch is that it doesn't actually have a micro adjustment system on the fly. And for a luxury watch, I guess, I don't know, there are many brands which don't offer this, but even at the price point, but it would have been great to just see that. It would have been perfect. And also with the clasp itself, I believe it only features one or two, actually it features no micro adjustment on the clasp. Even watches at $300 features that, and that would be like a very typical gripe. But honestly, look, I'm able to find a perfect fit. But what I think is the 44GS case or any 44GS watch feels really, really good on a strap. It just exaggerates the case design, that grammar of design, and looks fabulous. I've owned the watch for a month. I think it's the one thing about this watch I'd like to tell any newcomers into Grand Seiko is, if you are not a fan of scratches, and for me this watch actually works as a daily watch. I know, it's the intended purpose of the watch is to be a daily wear watch. It features the 100 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown. But one thing about having a mirror finished surface is that it will scratch easily and show hairline scratching compared to, let's say, other watches. And that's one thing about the grammar of design that you should be wary of. But it's not like it's always in your face. It's never in your face. Because of this mirror finish, it in certain lights, a mirror finish can just appear like black and disappear. So from my experience of, let's say, a Seiko watch which features the Zaratsu finishing technique, the Seiko Marine Master 300, the polished flank or the polished bevel of the really large Zaratsu line, in certain lights that appears black, like in most natural lighting conditions, until you turn. your wrist in different directions, what you notice is that it's almost, yeah, it's like gone, it's invisible. And that grammar of design alludes to a much thinner watch, and the MM300 is a very thick watch, but you know, it works because of this design. And that's where I start to appreciate the Japanese and the craftsmanship that they offer in their watches. So that there is just a little bit of a review of the SBGJ235. It's an owner's experience of the watch. I think it's fabulous, and I think many watches like this. I believe in 2014, a watch like this, it's pretty much a green dial variation of this watch, won the GPHG award in the category. So it won the category award for watches between 4,000 to 10,000 Swiss francs. You know, this here is an icon from the brand, and a lot of people think the Grand Seiko Snowflake is the icon. You know, it definitely is an iconic watch, but when you look at Grand Seiko, when you delve deeper into Grand Seiko, you start to realize that the 44GS case, to me personally, and I think for the brand at least, is an icon. Even the 61GS case, which housed the high beat movement. And for those that want to experience this grammar of design, it is within the Seiko brand itself. Like, look at watches like the Seiko Sumo. Look at watches like the Marine Master 300. These are watches that are relatively affordable, and you get to experience the grammar of design. Not just that, you can look at vintage watches. For a few $100s, you can pick up a King Seiko. There is a lot of history to this brand, and I have not gone through it today. But I hope that this review kind of opens or leads to a gateway into doing a bit more research, into the King Seiko, Daini Seikosha versus Suwa Seikosha, the models of watches they had, the techniques they employed. It really is, fascinating. The documentaries on YouTube are very nice. I watch one of them. I'll put a link down below. I watch that every 2 months just to kind of rekindle my appreciation of Grand Seiko. So here it is. It's my Sands of Time review, and I like to say that the video probably does not do the watch any justice, as simple as it is. One good thing about this watch is, even though the bracelet might be a gripe for some people due to lack of micro adjustment, etc., you can actually get aftermarket bracelets. You could put in a stayed mesh if you wanted to. You can put in any kind of leather strap. Even there are fitted rubber straps for the lugs. There are Strapcode is making bracelets, an asteroid style bracelet, a Jubilee style bracelet, and a Hexad bracelet for this particular watch, for the 44GS. It is an icon. It is so beautiful. Just looking at the craftsmanship of the watch, the light play, just in daily wear, is, when you own one of these kind of watches, when you glance at the time, you want to appreciate. And in a lot of cases, I forget why I'm looking at the watch in the first place. I'm looking at trying to determine the time, but I end up playing around. As childish as it sounds, I end up playing around with the light play that the watch offers, moving it around, and yeah, it's a stunning watch. And it's not just, it's with any kind of Grand Seiko, really. And a lot of gripes people have with Grand Seiko, they may say, they all look very similar and the same, and I can agree somewhat. They feature the Delphine style handset, but you will not actually understand the beauty of this watch until you have it in hand. The stock images don't do any justice. It does not show anything. It's a stock image. So I'd suggest go into a boutique, an authorized dealer, ask to play around with the watch. It's great. But yeah, thank you for watching this review. It is the Sands of Time. Again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, dislike the video, provide any feedback, and thanks for watching. Peace.